What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Locks DFS Thursday night NFL Showdown video. We're going to be breaking down the Kansas City Chiefs at the Denver Broncos. Adi's going to be going to this game in Denver, so that's cool. Going to be an interesting showdown. Adi, do you have the team totals off the top? Just right off the top, and then I'll get into all the other stuff we want to do here.
Yeah, so Kansas City opened at 26.75 and Denver opened at 23.25. But since then, Kansas has dropped to 25.25 and Denver's dropped to 22.25. The over-under opened at 50, 29% of bets on the over, yet it's dropped 2.5 points. So a decent amount of sharp money, or a healthy amount of sharp money coming in on the under here. Even though it's receiving 71% of the bets, it's still got majority of the sharp money in it. And I think that's mainly because, Denver's going to try and run the ball a lot this game. And Patrick Mahomes has looked a little bit iffy with his ankle injury.
Yeah.
And some pretty decent reverse line movement coming in on Denver. They've received 22% of the bets, yet have moved from +4 to +3 on the spread. So could definitely see that moving a little bit farther, maybe to like 2.5 or something. But
yeah, Vegas starting to move just a little bit against the Chiefs. We've seen in the last 2 weeks, and they're coming off 2 losses, so that's just what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that more in a second. Before we do, wanted to mention 2 things. First of all, Adi has the winner for the giveaway. But before, just remember that if you like this video, if you leave a comment, just leave your comment. If you're playing a lot of GPs, maybe the guy you want the most exposure to, maybe the guy that you're locking in, leave a comment with your favorite play on the slate, or any other comment if you want. That'll enter you in to win a free NFL or a free season pass of your choice, NBA, NFL, and college football, of course. So just do that. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed if you like the video. And Adi is going to do the giveaway.
So last week's winner, we're going to go with Scott Denian. He left a comment just saying thanks for the video. I find your and Christian's lineup reviews very helpful. So Scott, go ahead and DM us at LocksDFS on Twitter, and we'll get you hooked up with a free NFL or NBA season pass.
Okay, cool. And that said, and then the last thing I wanted to mention, of course, is our website. If you're not familiar, our loan sponsor, locksdfs.com. Check us out. That is where me and Adi post our content leading up to the slate. As you can see, our passes are listed here. You also can get a free trial if you go to sign up in the top right tab, which you can't see me go there on this little screen here, but it is in the top right. Just push sign up, and you can try the 3-day free trial pass as well. That will get you on the All Sport Pass once the 3 days are up, which gets you college football, NFL, and NBA. With NFL, we've been doing, besides just this showdown video, we will do a full game breakdown, basically. Last time, Adi put some notes in the Slack as well. So that's kind of what we tend to do for the showdown video, and you'll get our lock sheets as well. Okay, and with that said, let's go ahead and jump back into the slate. And let me make sure I'm clicking on the right thing here. Here it is. Okay. Okay, so for me, looking at the top here, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be condensed to 3 main captains. I guess it depends. I guess, honestly, all 4 are interesting to me because if you prefer Kelce over Hill, we don't know Hill's snap share for sure. I don't think we've got any news on that. We knew that he played 50% of the snaps last week. But if he was going to be 100%, he'd be someone that I'd be very interested in captaining. Kelce is a little bit interesting of a captain, but I think a lot of people might go with Phillip Lindsay, obviously, as a passing role. Obviously, like Adi said, we think Denver's going to try to run the ball a lot in this game. He's going to be an interesting captain because he allows you to fit in a lot of studs down under him. But obviously, Mahomes probably is going to be the highest projected scorer on the slate, and that's always interesting to have in your captain spot. Adi, what are you thinking about in terms of your captain right now?
It's interesting. I kind of agree with what you said. I'm kind of interested in rostering one of these Broncos running backs in the captain spot right now. I think the obvious answer is Phillip Lindsay, but I think if you can do something with the salary you save by playing a guy like Royce Freeman captain, I don't mind that as well. Royce Freeman is a guy who is due for some positive touchdown regression. He's received, I believe, 11 red zone carries, and has converted none of them into touchdowns, which is definitely, that'll probably regress at some point. The Chiefs are missing Chris Jones and Xavier Williams, who are 2 of their better defensive tackles. And they've been gassed. I mean, they've given up, I think, over 5 yards per carry to running backs on the season. So it's just it's a good spot for both these running backs. I think it's definitely a week where you can play both of them. And I think one of them in captain makes a ton of sense. But, I mean, there's some Bills that there's some Bills with Pat Mahomes captain, because you really got to think about what kind of game script you anticipate with this game. And I think maybe the public, even though the public in NFL has gotten so much sharper, you can just tell this year, like that Will Fuller
carry on captain was 60% in cash.
The carry on captain.
And I mean, that was just really one of the things with captain is like, it's either you want someone who is just gonna, like a quarterback who's gonna score you 25 points, so you feel confident scoring 25 points. Mahomes is definitely one of those guys. Or you want a guy who is a little bit underpriced, 8K, 7K, somewhere in there, 7 to 9K, that is going to get volume. That also not only has volume but also has a ceiling. And Carry-On was the definition of that. He made a lot of sense as a captain. Has a game in the passing role, or has a role in the passing game. Like, he just made a lot of sense as captain. So I mean, I think that's really where mostly everyone. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I don't really remember back to last year if it was the same, but that's just what people have been doing now. Like, if either go into high score or go with someone that has that volume that's underpriced, basically.
Right. Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, that the public would assume something like, or I would assume that the public would think, the Chiefs smashed the Broncos here because the Chiefs are just so much of a better team than the Broncos. But majority of the public is hip to reverse line movement now. They're hip to like all these trends in football that sharp bettors have been paying attention to for so long. But now it's like, I think we're going to see a healthy amount of Philip Lindsay captain. I think, I think obviously I'm just saying not to say Mahomes is probably the best overall captain. I mean, he's going to you run this game, 10 times, he'll probably be the highest scorer 6 or 7 out of those 10 times. So,
I was going to say one thing. So Lindsay is priced about the same as Carry-On. I don't remember where Carry-On was. He was 8 something. But one thing about Lindsay is that he has another running back behind him that has a legitimate role. Like let's pull up the snaps right here. We saw Royce Freeman has continued to get about 50% of the snaps, whereas Carry-On pretty much has been getting 70 to 80% since CJ Anderson got cut. So it's a little bit of a different situation than that. That said, I still think Lindsay is, like Adi said, going to be getting some pretty heavy volume. I'd be interested to see, and you might want to pull it up, what their red zone touches have been. I would guess that they'd be somewhat balanced, just like their snaps are.
Yeah, I'm going to pull up Philip Lindsay's, because just from watching Broncos games, it feels like Philip Lindsay gets all their not all, I should say, but gets majority of their red zone touches and touches inside the 10. But I'm seeing that Royce Freeman has 11 red zone touches on the year and 5 touches inside the 10. So he is getting his fair share, which definitely makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's so the Colts and the Texans really just laid out a blueprint for how to beat the Chiefs with just running the hell out of Marlon Mack and Carlos Hyde in both those games and just moving the chain and keeping Mahomes off the field. Kansas City ran 16 second half plays, 1-6. That equates to 32 plays for the game. That's insane to me, man. Like 16 second half plays. And so Rich Gangrella is going to try and do the same thing, the offensive coordinator for the Broncos. And he has the team to do it, and he has the matchup to do it, with Kansas missing 3 of their best defensive players, Kendall Fuller being the third, and then both their top defensive tackles. And then the Broncos having 2 legitimate running backs who they both like to give. I mean, last week they got 17 and 16 touches respectively between Lindsay and Freeman. Freeman played 62% of the snaps. Lindsay played like 48%, I believe. But, I mean, this is a game where Rich Gangrella is going to do everything possible to give Freeman and Philip Lindsay both 20 touches. And if that happens, then the Broncos probably win this game as well. So it's like
that's bold.
I mean, if Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman both get 20 touches, I would assume that the Broncos are leading majority of the game and that they can do that. But they've shown, I mean, Denver has shown the unwillingness, I should say, to stop running the ball when they're trailing, if that makes sense. They keep running the ball when they're down 14 as well at a fairly high rate. So, I mean, they could get 20 touches and lose, but if both those guys get 20 touches, like I would think the Broncos win this game if they both get 20
I think that just saying that Denver's going to win, though, also you have to have a lot of confidence in Denver's defense.
Right. And I mean, I believe in Denver's defense. They've had some easy matchups here versus Tennessee and whoever they played. The Chargers. I guess the Chargers not the easiest matchup, but I mean, they've been the toughest team versus opposing signal callers. I mean, quarterbacks having the worst run versus Denver defense. It's hard to play in Kent. It's really hard to play in Denver, and it's even harder to play in Denver on a short week. And it's even harder to play in Denver on a short week when your starting quarterback's a little bit banged up and you're missing key defensive pieces. So it's definitely shaping up for Denver to sneak one out here. And I'm not just saying that because I'm going to the game and I'm going to be rooting for Denver, but definitely feels like a game that's going to stay closer than most people anticipate.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about some other options going down here. We talked about Lindsey. So obviously we haven't talked about Flacco. Let's first talk about Kelce versus Hill and how you're kind of seeing that situation. Obviously we have Hill. I don't know where the prices are on FanDuel, but on DraftKings we have Kelce 1,400 less than Hill. We saw Hill play 51% of the snaps last week. Obviously got there with his 2 touchdowns, and he obviously had a very, very heavy target share in his time on the field. I mean, 10 targets, that's pretty absurd. How are you kind of feeling about those two? Obviously, most builds you're going to have. Like, I was looking at that one build with, like, Royce Freeman captain, where, like, you can probably fit – if you really wanted to jam those 3 guys, you could do it. But it's just not really, like – it's probably not somewhere you're going to end up going. You're probably going to choose one of those 2. So which one do you think that you would end up with if you were multi-entering more exposure to?
I'm pretty worried about Denver controlling the – I'm pretty worried about Denver controlling a lot of the time of possession in this game. So I think that would kind of deter me from loading up on all 3 of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I think most people will not do that as well. So definitely makes some sense. If I had to pick between the 2, I think I'm leaning Travis Kelce point per dollar wise just a little bit. Both of them have really tough matchups. Chris Harris Jr. has probably been the best cornerback in football for the past 2 weeks. You can make the case that Stephon Gilmore has just been the best all season. But Chris Harris Jr. after completely blanking Keenan Allen, and then obviously just like him and the Broncos defense holding Tennessee to 0 points. I mean it's a tough matchup for Tyreek Hill he's going to draw primarily Chris Harris's coverage. So it's a tough matchup.
Do we have past stat lines on Tyreek Hill?
Versus Chris Harris, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I mean it's been what 2 years, 3 years now.
Yeah,
we can see what we got here, but Kelce is definitely a safer option, but it's also not like he has a very friendly matchup either. Denver has been pretty shut down against tight ends, so we have 9 for 54 last year and 3 for 70, so pretty modest games both there. I mean, nine catches for Tyreek. It's pretty crazy. He had 9 catches, only had 54 yards. Must have been a bunch of screens and stuff like that, just trying to get him the ball.
Yeah, game. They're going to try and get him involved for sure, but it's being shadowed by Chris Harris caps any receiver's upside, even one as good as Tyreek Hill with a quarterback as good as Pat Mahomes. But it's not an easy matchup for Travis Kelce either. I mean, the best tight end score versus Denver was probably Darren Waller in week 1 where he has like 7 catches for 70 yards or something like that. But, I mean, seeing what Darren Waller's gone on to do, that's even not a great game for a guy like Darren Waller. So Denver's shown like really – I mean, despite, not having a turnover for like the first 3 weeks and not having a sack for the first 2 weeks, they've still shown that they're a pretty damn good defense. And Vic Fangio's, one of the better defensive game plan. Like, he's one of the better coaches at constructing a defensive game plan, especially versus a guy like Pat Mahomes and this Andy Reid offense. But I like Travis Kelce mainly just because of the inevitable touchdown regression that's coming his way. I mean, this guy, he leads them in red zone targets. He almost leads the league in red zone targets, and he has 1 touchdown on the year. He had like 3 red zone targets last week, 2 or 3 red zone targets last week versus Houston, converted none of them. He had one of his red zone targets was this little, I forgot what it's called. It's like a little play where the tight end like cuts in and goes out. I forgot what it's called. I run it in Madden all the time. It's like an easy 5 yards, but I'm forgetting the name. And Travis Kelce slipped. He lost his footing on a walk-in touchdown.
Not a score on that though. There were like 3 guys right there.
I think it seemed pretty walking. If he caught that, in stride, like everything went well, that should have been a walk-in touchdown.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But he slipped. Nevertheless, he slipped, so we won't know. But it's funny because he still almost caught the ball too. That's how open he was. But like he slipped. That didn't work out. It's just sort of been the story of his season, not being able to convert these opportunities. And I think at some point he's going to convert them, and it's probably going to happen in the same game because regression tends to hit pretty hard when it does. So you could see a 2-3 touchdown game from him at any moment, and having that on a showdown slate would totally break it in your favor. So I think I prefer Kelce to Tyreek Hill. But I think the majority will as well. So I think that'll leave Tyreek Hill a little bit under-owned on this slate.
Like Adi said, because of volume, I don't think a build where you fade both and just play Mahomes, especially if it's like a Mahomes. I guess mostly if it's a Mahomes captain team because of your salary restrictions you're gonna have with Mahomes captain. Like I think it's okay, but I also think you have Mahomes captain, you're probably gonna need someone. So maybe go to someone like Demarcus Robinson would be a little bit interesting. But yeah, I mean, I prefer Kelce in terms of a floor too, and like with Hill, obviously the Harris matchup is tough. Okay, we talked a little bit about Phillip Lindsay. I would say about the running back situation. I do like Lindsay, of course, but I do think it's very interesting that Royce Freeman is this much cheaper. I mean, he's 2,800. He is he's less than LaShawn McCoy. He's less than Damian Williams. He has a bigger role than both of those guys on his offense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He seems like a pretty smash play to me at 6K. He's my favorite play under Kelce point per dollar. I know you look Lindsay too, but
I think I'd agree with
talk
that.
about the Denver running backs. And you said that you're interested in getting both of them. I mean, before this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit earlier to start this podcast. It's just such a good spot for both to run both these guys. The ideal game plan for Denver would be getting both these guys 20 touches. We've seen Royce Freeman be active in the passing game, which is huge. I mean, he got 5 targets last week, caught all 5 of them. It's not, and he's got 3 weeks prior to that, weeks 2 through 4, where he received 7 targets versus Chicago, 5 targets versus Green Bay, and then 6 targets versus Jacksonville. That's that's like wide receiver 2 usage right there. I mean, it's just how Denver plays. They run a fair amount of snaps with both these guys out there, and they're going to be both out there for a healthy chunk of this game. I just think if Denver can get a 7 to 10 point lead in this game, they may never relinquish it if they can just keep running the ball. And because Kansas has showed such an inability to stop the run all season, and now they're missing their 2 best run stoppers. It's just Denver could rip off like 7 yards per carry this game, and not surprise anyone. That could even be kind of light. So it's like all over these guys. I think saying Royce Freeman's your favorite point per dollar play under Phillip Lindsay kind of makes sense because he's just way underpriced given his role. But it's a good spot for the Denver passing game as well. I mean, I guess that'd probably be the best place to go next with this. I mean, Kansas City's just. Let me get the actual numbers for you. So Kansas City's defense is 26th in the league in sacks and 26th in the league in quarterback hits, and they've allowed top 10 quarterback outcomes for the last 4 quarterbacks out of 4 of the last 6 quarterbacks they faced. And I mean, Joe Flacco's had a fairly clean pocket for 2 straight weeks versus the Chargers and versus Tennessee. Both decent defenses. He hasn't done much with it. I mean, 10 fantasy points and 6 fantasy points. He didn't really have to do too much because obviously when Denver plays with a positive game script and when they're leading by multiple scores, which they have been in both these games, they're going to do everything they can to limit Flacco's passing. So that is the downside here. If you think that Denver controlled this game, he passed the ball 20 times versus the Chargers and 28 times versus Tennessee, which is just not really going to cut it. It's just not enough volume. But if you think this is a game where Kansas City can get out to a lead, then Flacco should be working with a pretty clean pocket for most of the game. And his receivers both have really good matchups as well versus secondary that's going to be missing their best cornerback in Kendall Fuller. Cortland Sutton, he leads the entire league in market share of air yards. It's like over 46%. It's just monstrous. And he's like, if you guys remember anything about Adi's action last year, it was that Cortland Sutton got a mention almost every week. And I had a feeling I was about a year early on him there, but this is just like, he's breaking out. I mean, he's an elite talent. He's fast, he's big, he's strong, and he's receiving almost 50% of his team's air yards. Emmanuel Sanders is banged up. He's 32. coming off a torn Achilles and now a knee injury, which is minor, but nevertheless, it still caused him to miss majority of that Tennessee game. And now there's no Kendall Fuller. So it's a good spot for this passing game as well. It's really like you just want to decide how you think that this game is going to be played, and sort of correlate your team to that.
We talked a little bit about Demarcus Robinson. He's someone that could, because of the two tough matchups. Obviously, Denver's going to probably hedge coverage towards Tyreek and towards Kelce in general.
Mm-hmm.
And Demarcus Robinson is going to be running, solid routes. And I think he's definitely a secondary cash option, but I won't talk about it too much. Also, we'll talk
I like him. I like Demarcus Robinson.
Yeah, I like him too. Yeah, for sure.
87% of the snaps last week, and Sammy Watkins is going to miss this week, obviously. So, if you think that they give shadow coverage to Tyreek Hill, maybe even safety help over the top because of Tyreek Hill's speed, and then maybe, double coverage to Travis Kelce. It could be a Demarcus Robinson explosion week.
For sure.
So definitely in play. I think I agree as a secondary cash option for me, but definitely in play for sure.
Not really touching the Kansas City running backs. We just don't really have a feel for what they're doing here. Like Damien Williams was thought to be the top running back. Then we see LaShawn McCoy randomly lead the team in snaps. Damien Williams, I think, is the most talented running back in the backfield. He could catch the ball. He's a pretty good runner in general, probably a better running back than LaShawn McCoy, even just as a pure runner right now. But that is not what Andy Reid is doing. So, it's just probably something I'm going to stay away from, especially with the reverse line movement. I would go with Damien if I was looking for a GBP Kansas City running back. And other than that, Deshaun Hamilton plays some snaps, but I'm not too interested. He's got like no targets. Obviously, both the kickers are in play. I think they're actually the only point per dollar guys down here that make a lot of sense. You could take a shot on Noah Fant, but again, like Adi said, not really a lot of volume in the Denver passing offense. He has a little bit of touchdown equity because he has a tight end. He's going to be on the field down there. But the only guy I'd look at down here really, Jeff Heuerman is really, really thin. I'm not really interested there. Like usually there's a guy down here. There's really no one down here this game. Is maybe Byron Pringle under these kickers. But, we saw Pringle last week with Watkins out getting 59% of the snaps. But I do think this is pretty much what we're going to be seeing. We're going to be seeing these two splitting snaps, and they could even drop a little bit more with Tyreek Hill assumed to be going up. Even if he doesn't play 80%, even if he plays 70%, that's a pretty significant hit. But Pringle, point per dollar wise, still makes, this doc just – okay. Wait. Nope, that's not what I meant to push either. Wow, awesome.
You're good. It's just on the snap count page.
Okay, yeah, there we go. What was I saying? Pringle is way cheaper than like a Mecole Hardman, $3K less. And he fits more into the Sammy Watkins role than Hardman does into the Sammy Watkins role. Hardman, I think, is mostly taking the snaps from Tyreek directly. So Pringle's the only play down here that makes any sense to me, but
for sure.
and he's not that bad of a play, but I do definitely prefer the kickers if you can pay for them.
Right. For what it's worth, Byron Pringles ran over Mecole Hardman for 2 straight weeks. Yeah. Last week, Byron Pringle got 60% of the snaps. Mecole Hardman only got 53%. So he definitely, I agree. He's looking like the guy that's going to be out there in place of Sammy Watkins for the majority of the snaps, even if that's 65% for 2.8K. Definitely makes a lot of sense. Noah Fant, it's just the volume just has him in there. He ran, I think, 29 routes week 1 through 4, and then the past 2 weeks where Broncos have been leading for majority of the game, he's only ran 20 routes. 20 routes just not going to cut it, even though he's talented enough to get there at 3.4K. It's just I don't know if I'd feel much more comfortable playing him in a game that I was certain Denver would be trailing in, and I'm not certain that they'll be trailing in this game.
Right.
And even if they are trailing, I'm just not certain that it'll be by too much.
Like I said, both kickers in play in cash per usual. I think Denver is an interesting contrarian GPP play at only 3K. That's very, very cheap for a defense. We know how defenses, and shout out to Established Run who does a showdown breakdowns, showing us basically how they show every single GPP winning lineup through the year so far. And I believe that a defense has been on them almost half the time. At only 3K, They make some sense. They're going to create pressure. Mahomes hasn't looked super mobile because of that ankle. I don't know how he'll look in this game. It is a short week, and he didn't look great on Sunday. So I would think that he's still not fully recovered. I don't think he's going to be fully recovered unless they sit him at some point this year. Maybe he gets recovered over the bye week. I don't know, but he doesn't look healthy. I mean, I know that he doesn't have an injury designation, but he does not look healthy right now. And I think that Broncos at 3K, they absolutely could outscore a kicker. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's a home game, short week for Kansas City. There's just so many reasons why they could get there. So I think 3K is definitely in play. Chiefs defense really not in play for me. They're not really going to get too many sacks, too many pressures.
I'm glad you mentioned the Broncos defense because
I mean,
they're
3K.
They're definitely in play at 3K.
They're so cheap. They're so cheap.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly, they're both cheap for for a showdown with not a crazy high total. They're both cheap.
And the under is being smashed in this game.
Yeah.
So
forgot about that.
It's I think I think the ideal build in this showdown has both Broncos running backs. And for that to succeed, the Broncos defense is probably going to have a pretty good game.
I mean, they're just going to have to not let Mahomes score on every drive like he was doing last year.
Just not scoring every drive, maybe get a takeaway here and there. And if they score a defensive touchdown, then they've just paid off their salary and you're good to go. So.
Mahomes just looks so uncomfortable dealing with pressure.
Yeah, and even that touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill, I mean, that should have been an interception, Yeah. Like, it went right through Justin Reed's hands. So it's not like –
Tyreek kind of took it, let's be real. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. All credit to Tyreek Hill. He went over the top and took it. But I think –
those hops.
Yeah, I think majority of the time that throw happens, it's probably – if that throw happens 10 times, it's probably picked off 3 times and batted down 5 times. You know what I mean? And so it's like –
so crazy.
Yeah, so it's like, Mahomes definitely has been sort of running good with this lack of interceptions like we were talking about before the stream.
For sure.
Or before the video. So, I don't hate it at all, Broncos defense at 3K. I think it's playable. And no one else is going to do it because why would you ever take a defense?
Maybe.
I just don't think
defenses are always owned just like kickers a little bit.
They especially
people love to look at their lineups with 10 points at the start of the game. I think that's honestly
right. Yeah, right. I agree. Especially this year, it feels like defensive ownership has gone up this year, and for some reason, it's just been working too. Yeah. I feel like it never worked in the past in showdowns, but it has this year.
I mean, you're the fish who faded the Patriots last Thursday night. I mean, that was fishy. That was dead. That was just fishy.
I know. It's just
price was high. The price was high, but man, they were not scoring under 10 points. They just weren't gonna that wasn't happening.
Sure. I'm honestly, sure. But it's like 6,200 and it's 6,200 and defensive touchdowns are just so random.
For sure. They got lucky with the touchdown. I mean, they hit close to their ceiling with the touchdown, so.
They had 2 touchdowns with the special teams.
Yeah, the second one. I forgot they scored 2.
Because the second one is what you account for. You don't account for the blocked punt being scored. That's whatever. But the second touchdown, it's like, okay, like that, their defensive touchdowns are just so random that predicting them, I feel like you just probably go broke predicting them. But it's like with, I guess the Patriots in that spot, sure, you can it's a weird spot. I probably shouldn't have made that fade, but I think I got punished a bit harder than I should have for making that fade. Like it was but it's all good. I mean, whatever.
Cool. All right. That's it for this video. Hopefully this was longer than last Thursday night video because the last one was so long. Thank you all. If you made it to the end, hit the like button if you made it to the end as well. That really helps us out. Obviously, if you comment, that'll enter you to win a free season pass from Lock CFS. We appreciate all you guys for coming back, even after our rambling last Thursday. And we will see you guys for the we'll see you guys for our cash and GPP breakdowns, but also NBA videos coming soon. So, stay tuned for that. Subscribe for those. And we'll see you guys back here soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.